here. Jake will be presenting his off-grid builder experience, building a home in Cochise County. Jake, his wife Katie, their two children called Portal Home, and he will be sharing the trials and triumphs that came with his owner building journey. Jake? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to try to maneuver all of these things that I've got in my hand here. So my name is Jake Long. I am an IT systems and software engineer. I am not an expert in anything that I'll talk about today. I'm more here to tell you that with some research, a willingness to learn, and a lot of guts, you can do this too. So I'd like to just gauge the temperature in this room. If you could show your hands, who's under construction, planning, or considering? Nice. Nice. Okay. Wait, keep your hands up. I want to see this. Okay. Who's doing it themselves? Keep your hand up. Nice. All right. That's a lot of people. Okay. So this is our home, and this is our experience. So does that do it? Yes. Okay. So a brief timeline. My wife and I visited Portal for the first time in February of 2021. We were similar to many people that move here. We were looking for space. We wanted to do some self-sufficiency things. And in July of 2021, we purchased some raw land here. October, a few months later, we moved to the land with our two kids and proceeded to live in our camper. And yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. So from October 2021 to November of 2022, so a little over a year, we did animals, we built a greenhouse, I got some initial solar going, and there was a ton of problem solving. So my wife is incredibly brave and resilient, and my kids are amazing. I don't regret moving here and basically camping for 2 years, but it was a questionable decision, and we lived very closely with each other, with just space and feelings and all the things. So I think I treasure that experience, actually. Your kids are only young one time, and we were very tight for a long time. So November of 2022, we applied for our owner builder permit. We broke ground, and about 10 months later, it was livable. We had a bathroom, a kitchen, some bedrooms. We were able to move out of the tiny camper and into some more space. So, okay. So this is our build. We are off-grid solar. Oh, I got to click the button. Yes. Okay. We're off-grid solar, septic, well. We have an 880 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. We're slab on grade, 2x6 framing, 10-foot ceilings. We have a 612 standing seam metal roof. We have cement board siding, R19 fiberglass insulation in the walls, R38 in the ceiling. There's lots of spray foam, and basically anywhere that there was where anything joined, any wood joined, any little cracks, gaps. I wanted it to be tight. I wanted to have control over the interior, and also do what we can to prevent any draft. It's windy and dusty out here, and also prevent or try to deter any rodents from trying to find a little crack that they might try to squeeze into. We have radiant in-floor heat. We have a dual head mini split, and we have a couple of on-demand propane water heaters, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so sometimes there's a misconception on off-grid living. People think that you have to be minimalistic, that you can't have modern amenities, and at least today, that's simply untrue. We have pretty Sorry, here we go. There we go. Okay, we have a pretty modern home. We have electric, we have lights, we have exhaust and ceiling fans, we have an air exchange. We've got the dual head mini split, refrigerator, dishwasher, washer dryer. On propane, we have an on-demand water heater for our hot water supply, and we have another on-demand water heater for our in-floor heat. And then our range and our oven also run on propane. Okay, so this is probably the most important slide that I have. And this applies whether you're, whether you're going to be on grid, whether you're going to be off grid. These techniques can just make your house comfortable. So our house is pretty comfortable. We incorporated a number of passive solar and a couple of other features that make heating and cooling, or they don't, so our supplemental heating and cooling don't make it comfortable, they make it more comfortable. So temperatures here can range 100 degrees in any given year. We can get down to 10, we can get up to 110. Our house, without any conditioning, we haven't gotten below 60 or above 80. We haven't lived in it a full summer. We were insulated in July, so I did get to kind of gauge what it was like in that house without any heating or cooling in July. But 68 to 72 is pretty comfortable for most people, right? And assuming your home is well insulated, it doesn't take much to raise or lower the temperature, 8, 10, 12 degrees. So some of the, if you're not familiar with passive solar techniques, do yourself a favor, do some research as you're planning your build. It can be critical. In my opinion, it's a critical part of building, especially today. Okay, so the first, so one of the techniques is north-south orientation. And what does this mean? So our home is 40 by 22. So the 40-foot walls face north and south, and the 22-foot walls face east and west. People come out here and they look and they're like, the mountains are on the, on the east and on the west, and they just immediately think they want to orient their house that direction. That's a mistake for a couple of reasons. And, from an energy standpoint, it's, you're going to consume a lot more energy if you orient your house east and west. So first off, the wind generally blows from the south here. So you're going to like that protection from the wind when you're sitting on your front or back porch and you're enjoying those mountain views. So, orient your seating maybe as opposed to your house on your front and back porch. And then also that summer sun is going to take its time on your, whatever wall is facing west, it's going to take its time and it's going to bake that west wall. And then the south sun in the winter is going to come in through your windows on the south side and just kind of, we don't need any heating in the winter. Maybe a little supplemental in the morning just to get from, maybe 63, 64 up into a comfort range. But by 9, 10 o'clock, that wind or that sun coming through the south windows, our house is very comfortable. Concrete foundation, highly recommend a concrete foundation. I attribute a lot of our stable indoor climate to the mass there. And, it's buried in the ground. It's a lot of mass, and it's just going to stabilize that temperature within our house. Summer, winter, the floor is relatively consistent temperature, and that just radiates through the whole house. So overhangs at the eave and gable, you don't want to, with your south, you don't want to block the south sun, but those are important. Nearly every room in our house has south facing exposure to the sun through the windows. we have an exhaust fan in the attic that's on a thermostat that just blows air out of the gable vent, which when I stand outside, I can feel it just, it's blowing hot air out of there, which I think was a good choice. And then we have an air exchange. If you're familiar with it, if you're not familiar with an air exchange, basically brings in fresh air, exhausts indoor stale air, and does some amount of conditioning on that air that it's bringing in. Okay, so I'm going to get it right the first time here, and I'm going to change it here and change it here. Yay. Okay. So I mentioned we're off grid. We have two separate solar systems. We have one dedicated to our well, and then we have another system that's dedicated to the rest of our property. We have 5,000 watts of solar array that's ground mounted. We have 20 kilowatt hours of lithium storage. 15 is dedicated to the property and 5 is dedicated to the well. We have two 6,000 watt inverters. One runs the house and one runs the rest of the property. So we have a couple of RV pads. We have some outbuildings that all have electric supplied to them. And then we have another 4,000 watt inverter that services the well. Okay, we'll change this one. Change this one. Okay. So some of the challenges that we faced and, considerations going into our build, obviously the climate, it could be way worse. I have a lot of family. We moved here from Minnesota, and they build year round in Minnesota, and it's freezing, negative temperatures sometimes, and they're out there building houses and, but the climate is a consideration. It does get hot. We do get rain. You will most likely be building in all 4 seasons. You will get wind, rain, sun. The nice thing is, once you're sealed in, you can choose to work indoors or outdoors based on, what it's like outside and all of that. However, prioritize the outside. Get your shell on and get your house secure. When you can work outside, work outside. That was kind of my strategy. I ended up kind of splitting a lot of time. There were days that I would schedule for some friends to come over and help or whatever, and we'd have windy days, and it would be like, okay, we can't put metal roofing on in 30 or 30 mile per hour winds. I can't put these big sheets of siding on in, 30, 40 mile an hour winds. And so it was nice on those days just to reschedule the work inside and, we could work there, but I prioritized the outside. I wanted to make sure that I was protected from the elements. And also, rodents are a consideration here and any other kind of pests that you might face here in the desert. So labor, yes. Okay, this is pretty cool. I paid about $5,000 in labor for my entire build, and I had help almost every day. So I know maybe some of you aren't coming from this valley, but I'll speak to this valley in particular. Get out there and be friendly and make yourself known. Number one, you'll meet a lot of great people. And number two, somebody might offer a backhoe. They might offer to come over and hold the other side of a board for you. But I had help. I'm just humbled by the amount of help that I had and the number of people that would just come. Like, I didn't even have to ask that, hey, you need help today? And then I had a friend who, I don't know why he liked me so much, but he was over several days a week just helping me out of the kindness of his heart. So anyway, labor is a challenge here. There are people that do things, but there are few and they are very busy. So you'll do yourself a favor if you get out there and make yourself known. Proximity to material, obviously you don't see a lot of Home Depots or Lowe's or big box stores around here. However, I did want to mention, I had a lot of stuff delivered that I did not think they would deliver. Home Depot, whatever. I mean, so much delivered here that I was surprised. So keep that open as an option. Sometimes it's probably cheaper than you even driving to the place, what you'd spend in fuel to have it delivered. Okay, and then securing material. So there are a lot of stories that I've heard of people chasing down and losing material because it blew away in the wind or whatever. So before you start to bring in material, if you don't have some place to secure that, from rain, from the sun, from the wind, especially, look into like a wind watertight shipping container. That's what I did. It was a great option. Some stuff obviously can stay outside. The things that could not, insulation, some of the finishing materials or other things that might blow away, I'd put them in the shipping container. I don't have to worry about them getting eaten by pests. I don't have to worry about them blowing away or getting wet or dried out, or getting, burnt by the sun, whatever that is. So, and then securing your build. So there are also stories of people losing parts of their building to the wind, or also I've seen where people have lost, they've ended up with a lot of water in their building, or into like what they considered like kind of a finished building, and then also rodents. So what I would say is, don't leave any part of your building unsecured. Like when you leave for the day, don't leave anything unsecured. Like everything has to be, because the weather here can change very quickly. You can just get a wind gust, you can get a dust devil out of nowhere. And then also just the sun, the rain, anything else that might, we had javelinas just coming up. I thought they were deer because I just saw the tracks, but we had javelinas coming in and like dumping water buckets over and all kinds of stuff. So just protect your job site prior to finishing up for the day. I know you'll be tired and be like, oh, it'll be fine, but don't leave anything to chance there. And then don't leave anything unfinished for long. Our neighbor built a straw bale house, and they got probably like, I don't know, maybe like 80-90% done. And then they left it for like 10 years. And like, there's water coming into it. There's all kinds of like the weather. This place is very wild, which we love. But it also just wants to keep it that way. So it will do its part. You have to do yours to secure your build. So those were things that I took very seriously during my build. Okay, so knowledge. I told you that I'm in IT, so I had some light experience with construction, but I did not have a lot of experience with all of the disciplines and skills of trades that you need to complete a house. With every single one of them, I found someone who was knowledgeable, skilled, potentially trained in a given skill. And I had them come and show me what I'm doing, provide consultation, whatever it was that I needed. I just reached out to people that I mean, for the most part, it came from people in this valley. So many people have built their own homes here. And, when you meet them, you can go, look at their house. You can see what they've done well, some things that maybe you would do differently. But, you can incorporate those things from what you see out there and from what other people have done. That's what I did. I didn't copy any one particular person, but there were several people. I was like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. and most, I think all of them built their own house. So great resources out there for you. Okay. I'm getting better at this. Oh, it's not. I feel dumb. All right. So this is kind of fun. I never had a single inspector visit my property ever. I'm not saying that will be your experience, but that was my experience. I didn't take that as a light, and I don't want to give that out as a license to, you know, bend the rules or not go by code or whatever, like a lot of that is there for your safety and the safety of your family and whoever's going to live in your house. And also you don't want somebody to, if you sell your house or pass it on to your children or whatever, and they go into some wall or some part of your attic and they're like, what, or you down the road, I want to do something else here. And you go in, you have to deal with your own mess. So, but that was kind of fun. I came from Minneapolis area before, and I finished my basement there, and the inspection process, I learned a lot from that. But the inspection process, I mean, it was just like, I'm waiting on inspectors. Okay, I schedule, they're coming in 2 weeks. They come, I have to fix this. Okay, I fix it the next day. I have to wait 2 more weeks. That was kind of nice coming here, and I didn't have to worry about that. So, yeah, there were many things. It was really cool. I was able to put my eyes on every material that went into my house. So every fitting, every board, everything, like I looked at everything, like I know what went into my house. And from a quality standpoint, I was able to sit and look at everything that I'd done and just say, is that the quality? Is that to my standard of quality? And if it wasn't, if you have hired hands, I'm not saying, I mean, you don't know, it's like somebody working on your car. I hope they're doing a good job. When you're doing it yourself, like, I mean, I took a lot of pride in what I was doing, and I wanted it to be right. I wanted it to be something I was proud of. I was taking the time, and going through a lot to actually like make this happen. So yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, there were a lot of things that maybe somebody else would have glossed over, and I went back, fixed it. It's never going to be easier than right then. You're kind of in control of your own timeline. For the most part, you've got to deal with weather. There's far less variables that you're dealing with regards to someone else's schedule. Knowledge, skill, material selection, cost, all advantages of an owner builder. So want to say a couple things to the people that would take on this challenge of building your own house. It is it's an experience. It is a challenge to probably your mental state more than anything. However, you could be living your best life. When I was going through my build, I was living my best life. I was at or leaning over my edge the entire time, and it challenged every bit of the person that I thought I was. Like you're dealing with finances, and you're dealing with it's stressful, aside from the physical challenge and everything else. It's an experience, but I felt like I was living my best life. Like I was really like, I was at the edge. I was feeling life the entire time. So the important thing is, remember from time to time to look up and find the horizon and take a minute and acknowledge your accomplishments. And do your best to keep your mental state, at a place where you can still, be with your family. I was working a full-time job and then going to my second job afterward. And the time that I had with my family was limited. And I didn't want that to be, I'm not saying I was perfect because I wasn't, However, some of the, sometimes just looking up and feeling that reward. And, I had a friend who would often say, look up at the mountains here, and just kind of, you're down here, you're looking at these things all the time. So take a minute, and if you're supporting someone who is doing this, when you start feeling that inevitable feeling of anxiety, impatience, go grab them a cup of water and go out there and remind them to look for the horizon. It will serve you both. Any questions? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Could you expand a little bit, explain your well, some particulars like how deep, the approximate cost and the quality of the water, and if you have to do anything with the water to make it drinkable?
Sure. So we had an existing well share with our neighbor. And the well is 270-ish feet. Did everybody hear the question, by the way? Okay. 270-ish feet. It's an AC well. It was already there. However, I mentioned my neighbor. That well had sat for as long as they'd had it. And the rodents had gotten into the well house and chewed up all the wires, and everything was unusable. It didn't have electric. It had previously been hooked up to grid power. I put a couple of solar panels on the well house. I put an inverter. I know there are DC pumps and all that, but I wasn't going to go down that path. I just put a battery and an inverter in there. The water quality, we did a water test. We don't have anything that's going to kill you. But there are, some things that my wife felt like we should condition. I drink it just out of the tap, but overall, I think it's fine. We have 25 gallons per minute water pressure, so it's good. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay, so we did not use it this past winter. However, if your feet are warm, the rest of your body is going to be warm. I think, I like the idea of having it. It wasn't a great expense to put it in. I had a photo in here of what ours looked like. Sorry, I know. Let me point this way. Here on the far left, or on your right, we just ran a bunch of PECs. It was a minimal expense at the time, and it was just, I'd been in some concrete floored homes where that floor in the winter just, was cold, and you might have heat blowing, but it just never felt as comfortable as if your feet were warm. So if you can do it for minimal, just doing this, running the PECs in the floor, enabled me to hook it up or not hook it up. So I would say at least go that far. And you can always, if you say, yeah, you know what, I'd really like to do that down the road, you can always hook up your, hook up the recirculation and the, all the things that we're using an on-demand system to heat the water that runs through there, but you can always hook it up later. So I don't know if that sells you, but yes, sir. I did a little bit, and it was, we're off grid, and I wasn't exactly sure what kind of consumption that would take. And I saw that there were some mats and things like that I could put in. The reason I went with this is one of my good friends, this is what he did. And if you ever went to his house, you would be like, okay, you know what you're doing. So I just went along with what he'd done in his house. But I think, I mean, I would use that as an option, especially in the case of I didn't do a concrete slab. If you've got a, wood subfloor, I think that that's a great option just to, with some insulation underneath, it's a great option. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Good job. Okay, you see on your programs, we're going to have a half-hour break. This is not lunch. This is a break, but don't get up yet. Everybody should have raffle tickets with you. We're going to do some raffles right now.